Welcome back to Designing AI-Driven Personalized and Adaptive Learning Environments course. So we have Nisuma with us. Nisuma is one of our TAs in this course. So what we thought is that instead of we present lectures, at the end of each week, we'll have a discussion like a podcast, where Nisuma would be asking questions which it might be arising from you all. What is this? If I create a domain model, what would happen? How do I use it? Those kind of questions Nisuma would ask us. Then we will discuss the possible answers. I hope it will be useful for all the participants. Yeah, Nisma, you can start.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
After this week's session, I had a confusion related to the link between domain model and learner model. Are they separate things or are they related? So, can you explain more?
So, thanks for the question. I think in this week we saw what is domain model, it's all rule-based model and constraint-based model. I think it's common and natural that we discuss three different type of modules in the ITS architecture or the PAL architecture: domain model, learner model. The confusion would come because in the rule-based model, also in the constraint-based model, we are capturing the learner's performance, and based on that we are providing feedback. Is it called domain or learner? The idea of this week when we created is that so a domain, how to structure the content, we are going to look at from the rule-based and constraint-based. But we cannot separate domain, paired and learner model at all. We cannot go one model at a time. We say that this is learner model. When you create a learner model, you should think about it, what kind of hint I should give. Should I give some feedback? That I should consider while giving the domain model. So while developing a domain model, you should know what are the data you have to capture, learner model, also what kind of feedback to give. If you're giving feedback, immediate feedback, you should consider them in the domain model content. So it's not separate. We need to do everything together.
And throughout this week, while we were looking at examples, let it be RBM or CBM, I think mostly those were from math domain. Can we discuss any other examples from science or other domains?
I think both RBM and constraint-based model we talked. I think we talked about hierarchically arranging it. It's max, it is natural, it's knowledge graph. And we also saw that, we should have a content and step-by-step approach. Whereas in constraint-based model, we did not follow much steps as we do. We say that this is the goal and the target can be any output. We did not follow the exact step-by-step. But I think going forward, we'll see a lot of systems where it is not necessarily mathematics. It is beyond mathematics. In fact, beyond the computer-based learning environment also can be personalized. So it is not necessarily mathematics, but we are trying to provide a well-established two literature-driven models, that is rule-based and constraint-based. That is why it looks like we are going for the structured model, but not necessarily structured model is needed. You could use it for any subjects. That is possible.
But for using this rule-based and constraint-based model, there should always be some logical sequence or structure to it. Like for example, in science, we read about global warming, sea level rise. So if there is a link, can we use that, or can that be applied for some social science kind of subjects?
See, I think two different trajectories, right? So mathematics is step-by-step solving. We could apply it directly without issue. For science, we could tell them this is a phenomena, you should do it. The output is this. We don't need to worry about the step-by-step approach, constraint-based model used. But something like social sciences, something like essay writing, something like a creative artist, I think these models will not work. Don't do personalization, don't do nudges in those things. There we would do nudges based on the metacognition or the higher level constructs, not on the cognition like the feedback or scaffolding. So we'll talk about that also a bit in the later in the weeks.
Okay. And coming to my next question, I had a doubt regarding how do we create buggy rules. So in the video lecture, you had mentioned novices generally make certain mistakes, and those mistakes can be targeted and remedial content can be given. But how do we know that in the first place?
Very good. Actually, we should have given more detail in the sense. I think that was one of the drawbacks, in the rule-based model, cold start issue would come in. To create a misconceptions, a buggy rule, the researchers are not created ITS first at all. When you talk about researchers, when they started doing the mathematics, questions and misconceptions, they conducted extensive tests using surveys, interviews. They found the students, misconceptions. There they found these are the common misconceptions possible in the given topic. But it's not explored for all the topics. For a decimal conversion table, there's a very good buggy rules possible. For the fractions, the rules possible. For the algebra, geometry is possible. So people did a lot of research in the math education, and those rules, existing rules, are using it in the system. So it's a cold start problem if a topic is new. If you're picking a new topic which we don't know what are the common mistakes occur, yeah, that's an issue. But in a mathematics, there will be a lot of well-researched buggy rules available. That is the reason why most academicians start maths tutor instead of any other tutor. Structured people research about the math education very well. So it's easy to create a system now.
With the help of GenAI, can I generate these buggy rules?
True. What would happen is GenAI would be able to look at the existing research and come up with the buggy rule. But would GenAI create its own buggy rule? It's doubtful. There are some efforts by the industry, also researchers happening. We will feed all the learners' interaction data, like the log data, the click stream, which mistakes they commonly make, the time taken to do the one mistake. We feed all the data. Would GenAI identify the pattern and give it? That is what possible. Would GenAI identify what are the misconceptions for the students? It is not possible. GenAI can only curate the content from the existing, or GenAI can detect buggy rules misconception from the log data. So that is possible.
Okay. And as a follow-up question, one of the drawback of RBM was creating this error space.
Yes.
So this was highlighted as a drawback, and why we are switching, or there is another method called CBM. Again, linking back to the GenAI use, now with the help of it, if I'm able to create an error space where for a particular concept, these are the misconceptions which students will be using, and then some remedial content, it is looking like RBM
can be useful.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like the GenAI solves the RBM's drawback. That's a good question. As I mentioned, GenAI may not be able to create a buggy rule for the new topic. Suppose a topic, say, nobody has studied about thermodynamics. Consider that nobody studied about what are the misconceptions student might go on physics concept of thermodynamics. Then will GenAI create the rules? No, unless you provide a data. You need to provide a data for all the common mistakes students make, all the answer sheets, the subjective, objective answers they make. Give all those answers scan sheet, then the GenAI might come up with the buggy rule. But on its own coming up is from the literature only. If it's not available in literature, it cannot generate. So that is the thing. That's a drawback. So, but the cold start problem. So, pick up topic which is well researched, it's easy to do. If it is not, do a first kind of conduct a survey or the Q&A with the students of, say, many batch of students, then collect data and do it. That's the easiest way.
In the CBM lecture, I found that there was one place you had told Professor Tanya Mitrovic's system is the only one used for CBM, the SQL tutor. Are there any other such systems?
Okay. Oh, that's okay. So I think it might be my mistake. What I mean to say is constraint-based modeling approach has come before Professor Tanya Mitrovic took it for the SQL tutor. But well-known system, well-used system is the one of the SQL tutor by Professor Tanya Mitrovic. But it's not a only system. There are a lot of other systems also use constraint-based modeling for developing a system. But I mean to say one of the common or most known system. I didn't mean to say only one system. That is the maybe mistake. I think we should look at other systems which is constraint-based, but we could also create our own system with a constraint-based model. It's not that only one can create. Yeah. So thanks, Nisamba, for the questions. I hope these questions might be asked from you also, and you have answers now. And if you have any questions, please put them in the feedback comments. Thank you.
Thank you.